Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hope. My name is Tammy Lynn Connors, and this is my YouTube channel and podcast, helping other people evolve. Today, I have my beautiful friend Aliyah with me. Hi, Aliyah. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. So, a few weeks ago, I went to an event. It was called Nate Hicks Acoustic Vibes. So it was one of those events I went to by myself. I do that sometimes. And I always know that God's going to put the right people in my life, no matter what. I really wasn't going there to look for a story of hope, but I found actually 5 stories of hope there, which was amazing. Well, I got to sit at the table with Aliyah and her friend and another girl that we didn't know. And we just struck up a conversation and started sharing a little bit. And she has hope is kind of her word too. So it was really cool. So just so everybody knows, in case you don't, my mission and vision with Hope is just to help people that feel like they're struggling alone. I feel like, especially in the world today, there's so many people at home sitting on their couch, laying in their bed, not wanting to get up, feeling like their struggle is so horrible that they can't get up, unfortunately. And unfortunately, a lot of people go through struggles, but fortunately, we get to a strength and to be able to tell our story of hope. I always say that I'm not at my strength completely, but I'm getting there. And if you could see somebody struggle that got to a strength, maybe you can get outside that day and maybe just take a deep breath and know that you can get through your day. So I don't really know a lot about Aliyah's story, but will you share with everybody a little bit when I told you about hope and what you said about that?
Yeah, I think the first thing that came to my mind is that so my nickname since I was little has been Ladybug, given to me by my aunt. And this last summer, I was doing some research into ladybugs, and one of the words that they actually are a symbol for is hope. And I was like, ooh, that resonates with me and my story. So it just meant more. And then I would walk past this building every day to work and literally spray paint it on the side. One day I saw it in purple. It was like hope. So it's just something that's been with me actually.
Yeah. So that was kind of like our first, when I said, because her friend, was telling her friend, I think you were up talking to somebody and I was telling her, and then she sat down and said hope, and you were like, oh, so yeah. So I guess let's just start. I mean, I know you come from a pretty good sized family, you said. Yeah. And I guess just kind of your childhood growing up and where your struggles went and how you're getting to a strength.
For sure. I'd say childhood wise, I grew up in a family of 9 kids. So there's 11 of us in the house. We all grew up together. I grew up in Georgia, actually. So it's a lot different from the Ohio area. I was used to running outside barefoot and, just kind of having that freedom. But I'm just trying to see what childhood was like. I'm the middle child of those 9 set kids. So that's interesting. It's an interesting spot to be in. I think sometimes it's you're too young for the older kids, but you're too old for the younger kids. So it kind of just put me in a frustrating spot. But I would say Georgia was I have good memories in Georgia. I moved to Ohio when I was 10, right before I turned 10. Okay. So that's right before teenage years and, everything like that. I didn't understand why we moved either. I didn't learn why we moved until a few years after. So I kind of felt pulled away from everything that I was familiar to. And Ohio is vastly different from Georgia. Yeah. So there was just so many abrupt changes and shocks. And I was just my parents are frustrated and whatnot, but as a child, you don't know why.
Right.
You don't know why we moved. So I'm just taking it personally.
Right.
And that was an interesting shift. I would say I got really quiet after a while moving here. School-wise, around those years that we moved here, I got bullied. So it started to get bullied. So that was also a new experience on top of moving,
Right.
And I'm a pretty nice person,
right?
So it wasn't bullied in the sense of I just want to belittle you. It was more so I don't know, I got good grades, I cared about my work, and kids are what are you doing, bro? You're weird. And so
right, that's kind of even as adults that happens, right, when you're doing well and this and that, and you get those people that are those negative naysayers and trying to bring you down with them is what I feel like.
I'm just here minding my
business.
Right. So it was just an interesting transition, and I think the way in which it had long-term effects on me is I got really quiet, started to kind of deal with depression, which I'll go back around to that, but my family, my immediate family wasn't like used to seeing that so up close and personal, I guess, or at least I wasn't aware that they were. And so, yeah, I think just kind of all those frustrations. I'm growing into a teenager. I still can't hang out with my older siblings. I don't really want to hang out with my younger siblings. Kind of find myself in my room a lot, like by a lot, all the time. Like my mom would force me out of my room. Just alone, finding my own vices and whatnot. And so after a while, that depression kind of took a turn into self-harm.
Okay.
And that was just like my way to cope. Like, you know, pretty much it, I don't know, it just grew into an overall coping mechanism. At first, it was just taking in everybody's frustration. I'm an empath, so taking in like everyone's frustrations. But also I didn't have a strong and or healthy self-image. And so I took a lot personally. And it's just like, if I can hurt me first, then nothing that you can do will hurt me worse than this, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
And so that's the mindset that I carried, and that's very destructive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very destructive, but that became like my teenage years, pretty much up until I moved out at 18, like off and on. My parents, they didn't know at first. And then one day I just kind of blew up and told them, because my dad just texted me at the wrong moment. And it was just such an interesting time, because again, they're not used to this. They're especially not used to self-harm.
Sure.
So like my parents, though, weren't necessarily taught how to handle situations like that, or handle someone you love like literally hurting themselves, you know?
Yeah.
And so we weren't always on the same, we more often than not, we're not on the same page, and just communication and lack of communication. And what do you need, you know, help with, or, you know, like they didn't know how to do that.
They didn't know how to do that. They were more like, why are you doing this? What is wrong with you?
I mean, so it's like a cycle.
Yeah. I want to just touch something that you said there, because I've never heard it explained like that. Like if I hurt myself, no one else can hurt me. I've never really heard it explained like that. Like I've heard a lot of people I've talked to, you know, I had, like I said, I was telling you, my niece was a self-harmer too. And it was always like, it was just like the release, which I get that part of it. I mean, I feel like back in the day, I might have self-harmed a little bit, like now that I think about it, you know, but not as, I didn't get into an addiction of it, because it is an addiction.
It is very much,
you know, but I've never heard anybody put it like that. And that makes so much sense to me, because I'm an empath too. So I totally get that. And it's almost like even doing that, but also blocking the world off, because if you block everybody off, who can hurt you? Nobody can hurt you. Right. So yeah, that's really powerful to hear it put like that. So, so anyways, now high school, things like that.
High school for me was
because we're like in that stage, right?
So started to kind of, you know, depression is here, self-harm is here through high school. I was also kind of discovering, and I'll be open about this as well, like my sexuality and such like that. So I'm literally like, the perfect way to define me is the black sheep of my family. You got depression, I already hit my parents with that, stressed out, self-harm, stressed out. Like I'm the artsy, like, you know what I'm saying, artsy one as well. And then my sexuality, and me realizing that I'm also attracted to females, and they're like, what is going on?
Right.
Like it was a lot. And so then that came into play into this pool of things, because I'm also a Christian. And so I go to church and I go to a Christian school, and it just began to affect literally everything. And so that then became a trigger that would trigger my depressive episodes or trigger my self-harm. And so I just like literally kind of mentally put myself in a bubble, to where it's, I don't know, because I'm not really a hard demeanor person. I'm very soft, honestly. But in that time, I was like intentionally teaching myself how to like harden myself, and just how to not be phased, at least in front of people, you know? So I take those like that self-harm, or even just the depressive episodes in the absence of self-harm, just became like the moments where I would release my emotion. But like if anybody interrupted that, or if like I'm shutting down, like, you know, I didn't want to deal with that. And so that that's a lot to carry on the inside, because it's not like a regulated release of emotion. And so there's so much that's just stacking on top of the other. And throughout high school, I think the way that showed up was either, again, me being quiet and in my bedroom, and or I did get into not get into, but I did slip into like that suicidal mindset, you know, like, and really heavy. Like I would say throughout my high school years, I was hospitalized twice. And so that's something else that's not familiar to my parents, you know, having to kind of relinquish your child into a hospital. And then for me also, I'm like, y'all leaving me here?
Like, don't you love me?
Right. Like, you know,
right.
So it was just like a whirlwind of just so many different things that were feeding off of each other. And then like the unhealthy coping mechanism of making sure that none of that was seen as best as I could. Like it was seen here and then, but like I was in control of it in a sense. Right. So, yeah, that's that in a nutshell. When it comes to that. And then high school, like senior year-ish, I ended up actually getting expelled for my sexuality. Not because of any action, just because it became a fact that was known 3 months before I was supposed to graduate. So that, like, you know, just things that kind of shut me off. But I had to work through that. That was the first thing that I kind of just had to sit. I had to finish school online. So I was at home all day, every day by myself, basically. Parents are at work, other kids are at school. So, you know, it just put me in a place of a lot of thought. And then I did still graduate, just online school. But after graduation, probably towards the end of that year, I was dating my first girlfriend or whatnot, and ended up like moving out for her, or not for her, but I got kicked out. That was probably the worst thing that I've done. But like, I'm not a bad child. But that was like the one time. I'm just gonna, like, most teenagers, they have a couple stories. Meh, you know, but yeah, I like snuck into her house while her parents were at work. Like, that was just the dumbest decision I've ever made in my life. And I got caught. So I was just like, yeah, you deserve it. You deserve it. But moved out at 18. So I've been living on my own since 18, and that takes a different kind of like responsibility. And so I feel like, aside from the work that I was already doing to like grow out of self-harm, because it was like it became an off and on, further apart space thing. It wasn't something that I made an excuse for, wanted to continue to do. But also going into that space, it's a different type of like stressor. So I have things that I need to do. I got to make money. I got to find a place to stay. I can't go back to my parents, you know, because I made a decision to leave. And so, yeah, I like probably the end of my 18 through 20, I was pretty good. Just working, learning what it is to like be an adult, have responsibilities. I stayed with a couple of people and then ended up being able to afford like my first apartment. So that was, I wouldn't say they were calm years, but in the area of like self-harm and depression in like a sulking way, like those were like calmer years. I had something else to focus on. I had someone else to focus on. And my partner at that time also dealt with it. And again, I'm an infant. So that pulls me out of myself really quickly and into wanting to make sure you're good. You know? Which can be healthy if you have a balance.
If you have a balance.
If you have a balance. Because if not, like, it's still like, now I'm neglecting self and it's gonna come back up at some point. Which it did. I think that, you know, that relationship, which we're friends now, actually, it just took some time apart, but it just wasn't feeding either one of us at that point in time. Like, it was just, we just were not on the same page, like, at all. And so I felt like I wasn't being fed, and in her own way, she felt like she wasn't being fed, but neither one of us are 100% aware of it because we're not willing to see outside of our perspectives. And so I ended up leaving that relationship right before COVID, actually. Right before COVID, I had made like 2 recent new friends. And so going through a breakup, quarantine is coming. Like, my depression is coming right back up, like, but also got 2 good friends. So it was just like another weird time, because that was the first time in 3 years that I had ended up relapsing into self-harm. As an adult, it hits different. I'm like, I don't have my parents. I'm not, no one like is there to like scold me about it. Like, it's completely my decision. It's not something that I can get in trouble for. So it was just very weird, like opening that door back up. And making the decision through quarantine, I had to make the decision for myself for the first time as an adult. Like, I need to go to the hospital. Like, you know, I don't trust myself right now. So making those decisions, and having to nothing but time, honestly, to sit and really work through these thoughts. And honestly, if it weren't for the two friends that I made at that time, they stayed with me a lot through quarantine, or it was vice versa. I was with them or they were with me. But the way in which they challenged me and didn't make excuses for me in the same sense, and loved me though, you know, like loved me through it. But like, those are the people who on the days I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed, it's like, get up. Like, you know, like you need to get up. Or, you know, when like they would literally force me to kind of speak affirmations over myself. And I mean, force me. Like, I'm not leaving until you say it. And like, I would literally just like struggle to say it, but it started to show me like, oh, wow. Like, you know, why do I view myself like this? And seeing people function in healthy, like self-love and self-care for the first time in my face was interesting to me, but also extending themselves to me, I guess, to guide me into showing me what that looks like. Right. And having the patience, it takes patience, because it takes patience.
Yes, I say that a lot with ourselves, a lot of patience, but we got to give ourselves a lot of grace.
Yes.
You know, and people don't give themselves enough grace. You know, you go through, I mean, things that you went through. I mean, you think of, I mean, a lot, you know, like you said, you were bullied, and that probably led to this, and then the empath, and then no one's going to hurt me. And you don't really know who to talk to, because like you said, your parents aren't used to any of this, right? So your mom and dad are probably like, what is happening right now with our middle child? The top four are good. These four are good. What is going on with this middle child, right? She's so beautiful, and you just have that presence about you. But you know, that to give ourselves grace and be like, but not so much grace, right, that we lay in bed and we feel sorry for ourselves and we don't do the things that we need to do to get better. And you know, I always say that God puts people in our lives for reasons. Very much and so. Apparently he put those two friends in your life for a reason. For a reason. You know, not to know that like through the quarantine you were going to need somebody, because I mean, that quarantine was rough on everybody, right? And then just sitting at home and people watching the news, and it's just devastating every day. And I even found myself, because I don't really watch TV much now even, and before that I wasn't, but there was nothing else to do. So every day, I think they called it wine with the wine or something like that. Some of my friends would call it, but every day all I heard was negative, negative, negative. And I like for 30 days, and finally I was like, I can't watch this. What am I doing to myself? You know? And that's the thing. And to have those two friends in your life. Now, did you take yourself to the hospital then, you said, during COVID time?
Yeah, one of them actually dropped me off. They kept my phone. They got in touch with my parents for me, and yeah, I went.
And so after that, did you start like counseling or anything like that, or?
So I had been in therapy on and off, all through, like from the time my parents found out about my depression and me self-harming, like up and through this time, like present time. Yeah, I was like off and on in therapy. So I actually text my therapist at the time and let her know, like, hey, I'm thinking, like, I don't know if I should go to the hospital. This is where my mindset's at. These are what my thoughts have been like. So she's actually the one who encouraged me to go. So yeah, she actually took care of all of my bills during that week that I was there.
What a blessing.
So, yeah, she was really beautiful. And then yeah, I continued to see her for a little while.
Yeah. And now, but you still do therapy now, you said, right?
So I took another break, because it's just like finding a therapist is so like, it's like matchmaking.
It's got to be so hard. I know.
It's such a process. And I just like, after a while I started to get discouraged, but I finally this year actually found a therapist, and like I just prayed beforehand. I'm like, God, like, please let me know if this is where I'm supposed to be, because if not, I don't know that I am gonna look again, and I'm just gonna figure this out. But she's such a godsend. Like, she doesn't even know it. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I'm in therapy now, starting to get more like, we've passed our getting to know each other phase now, so we're kind of getting deep. So it's interesting.
Good. Well, so, and on that note, I like what you said though. You prayed and God said, okay, well, this is the one, right? And I just posted last night, before, like, as you lay your head on the pillow, I know life's hard. I get it. Everybody's going through things. Pray. I'm telling you, prayer works. You know, you pray it, and you just keep praying and praying for, you know, be careful what you pray for, because
it works.
It works. So now let's go to what's happening this weekend.
Yeah.
I think this is so important. I love that you shared your story.
Yeah.
I love that you shared with us, some of the things that you had to use to get through the things, real quick though, I want to ask, your relationship with your parents is good, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
me moving out, weirdly enough, was the long term the best decision I feel like I've ever made.
Yeah.
Aside from finances.
Oh yeah.
But I'm just like, parents. But yeah, no, me and my mom weren't really close growing up. So we've actually formed a friendship now,
Yeah.
And again, even outside of my parents, I'm just not the person, I don't like to cry in front of my parents. I don't know, it's maybe that was just a childhood thing and growing up and how I lived in the house. But I'm softening. So me and my mom, especially, it's just weird. I would not talk to her growing up at all. And I know it hurt her feelings, but now I'll go over there, ask for advice,
Good.
Me and my dad, he calls me probably every day, even if it's just for a couple minutes.
Yeah, that's
just
awesome.
to say hi.
That's awesome. And that's how those changes can happen though. We feel like we're stuck in that. And then once we start processing and changing, things change around us,
Very much so.
and that's something that I've had to learn on a lot too. And honestly, I wish I would have learned it way back when I was your age. Now I'm just now at 57 starting to learn so much about myself, which is all good as long as I'm healing and growing and doing all the things. So now, when I went to that event a couple weeks ago, her brother put it on, and he's a musician. He's amazing. He's amazing. I heard they had a big thing at the Huntington Center last week.
Yeah.
Clemmy told me, he was like, Nate Hicks was there. Yeah, it was so good. And it's so funny how all these people, I know this person, so now I know this person. I'm such a social butterfly, but it's so great meeting all the people and how they are intertwined. So this Saturday, December 10th, tell them.
I have an album dropping. It's my first album. It's titled 30 Days of Healing. So it really is, it's such a vulnerable piece of myself, honestly. I've been feeling so many emotions this past week, unexpectedly. I don't know why I didn't expect it, but just leading up to it, I don't know what else to say about it. Not necessarily.
So where can they find it on Saturday?
It will drop on every platform.
Okay.
Every single platform. Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Tidal. Where else there is? You can use it on TikTok if you wanted to. But it's 10 tracks long. And it really just digs into my headspace and my story from this past year. I did a lot of healing and experienced a lot of heartbreak. And so it's just putting that into a song and kind of, it's like the completion of a chapter almost. So it's really bittersweet.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm gonna go Friday night to the launch party. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear it. So I hadn't really heard you sing much, and then last night you went live on Instagram and sang one of my most favorite songs. I was like, she's singing "Reckless Love" by Corey Asbury. So if you guys don't know that song, it's called Reckless Love by Corey Asbury. And if you go on YouTube and find that song, there's a longer edition of it and it's live, but Corey goes into Luke 15:4 and explains exactly what reckless love is, with Jesus leaving the 99 to go find the one. And as you said last night, you felt like you were the one. And I was the one, like I was that lost sheep that he went and found. So that song last night when you're singing it, but your voice is beautiful. You're just a beautiful person. You really are. I'm so, can I have a hug?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a hugger. I'm just blessed that God put you at that table with me. I kind of knew that I was gonna be sitting with someone that I was gonna relate to or be a new friend. But
I was not prepared.
See how that works? I'm always because I'm that, like I said, I'm that social butterfly. So I just I don't sit there and just not talk. I'm going to bring out whatever we need, to talk about or maybe learn about each other. So I'm super excited because I got a new friendship with her and her brother, Nate. And then there's some other people there that I met. So I'm just excited about that. I'm excited about your journey that you're going on, with your music and everything like that. And I just know that it's going to be all great things for you. I know that you're a big influence to a lot of people that you probably don't even realize that you are, and I think that one day you'll see that more, and it's the accepting of it, right? When somebody messages me and they say something, I used to always be like, it's kind of like when somebody says they love your hair and you're like, well, yeah, but I didn't do anything, right? And now I've learned to just embrace it. I'm like, I love my hair. I'm like, if I say anything bad about my hair, God should strike me with some lightning because I'm blessed.
Mhm.
So it's just learning those things. And I just really think that you're going to be more impactful than you know, and especially with the younger people, I think,
Thank
you know,
you.
and hearing your story of hope.
For
So
sure.
thank you for getting on here with me
Yeah.
today.
Anytime.
So what I'll do is I won't be able to drop her links for her album yet because it's not here yet, but I will
have a
definitely.
pre-save on
Oh,
Wednesday.
she does have Wednesday. We will. That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Okay. So we'll get all that on there tomorrow. And then that way you guys can find her and everything like that. I just want to thank you for coming over today. This is the
Thank
first
you.
interview I've done in my house. So that's kind of cool. And I just thank you for coming over here today, Aliyah. And just, yeah, it's
For sure.
exciting.
For
I'm
sure.
excited for this journey, and I'll have her on here again one day. And like I told you earlier, you're my friend forever.
For
and
sure.
that's the way that works. So everybody, I hope that you have a blessed day, week, month. You know, it's coming up on 2023. Give yourself some grace, but give yourself some visions and goals to get through, you know. And if you're struggling at home all by yourself, remember Aliyah's story, or remember my story, or I have AJ's story, I have Jamie's story. There's so many stories of hope on here. And I promise you, if you can just get up in the morning, take a deep breath, think of one thing you're grateful for, you can get up and get through your day. Reach out to me if you need to. You guys all have a blessed day, and thank you for joining us on Hope. Bye.